This is a scripture reading from Psalm 121. I lift up my eyes to the hills. From where will my help come? My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. He will not let your foot be moved. He who keeps you will not slumber. He who keeps Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is your keeper. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun shall not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. The Lord will keep your going out and your coming in from this time on and forevermore. I am Pastor Robert McDowell of Athens First United Methodist Church. On behalf of our congregation, of which Mike was a faithful member, our warmest prayers are with all of you as we remember and give thanks for Mike's life and how he has touched all of us in wonderful ways. I was introduced to Mike in this meeting room of our church around this time 7 years ago. Mike was the chairperson of our church's 12-member leadership board, and they were here that night to interview me as their new pastor. The weather in Athens that night 7 years ago was bitterly cold, but I remember upon walking into this room, I felt nothing but warmth from those who were here to meet me. I could tell as soon as I met Mike and the leadership board that this was a very loving congregation. After coming here as the new pastor, I would have the privilege of meeting Mike for lunch on a monthly basis. We would go over the upcoming leadership board agenda, and Mike served as a wonderful sounding board for me as I would ask him all kinds of questions about the church, about the university, and about our community. Mike was instrumental in helping me to get off to a good start here. He was a lifeline to me in many ways, especially during my first couple of years here. A couple of years ago, I was listening to an American history podcast, and they were focusing on the 1894 protest march known as Coxey's Army. That protest was during an economic depression that our country was facing at that time. Jacob Coxey, who led this march from Massillon, Ohio to Washington, D.C., was seeking to persuade the government at that time to authorize a program that would create jobs through a public road building initiative. The march failed to persuade Congress, but it led to other groups to march on D.C. as well. At the end of that history podcast, the historian they were interviewing suggested that for more information on this historic event, people should read a published article by a Dr. Michael Sweeney, a professor at Ohio University. And the next time that I saw Mike, I told him about hearing his name on that podcast, and Mike simply nodded and smiled. That's who Mike was. Filled with so much knowledge and wisdom, but also very humble. That's a wonderful combination to be filled with wisdom, but to also have humility. The line that often gets repeated from Mike's 2019 graduate commencement address is his quote from Bob Dylan, "You've got to serve somebody." And the takeaway line from that quote was when Mike told the graduates, "Find a way to make your life count for others, and it will count for you." I'll never forget that line. I can tell you as his pastor, he followed his own advice. From successfully chairing our leadership board through an $800,000 building campaign to helping to lead a monthly worship service for residents of a nursing home, Mike served others because of his faith. Just before Mike passed, I shared with him one of my favorite scriptures, Psalm 121, which we just heard read for us. It's known as a traveling psalm that the Israelites would have sung as they were making the long journey from their homes to the city of Jerusalem. So picture hundreds of spiritual pilgrims approaching the city of Jerusalem and singing together these words, I lift up my eyes to the hills. From where will my help come? My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. Mike has faithfully completed his march here on earth. He has arrived to that place, the New Jerusalem, where there is no more mourning, sickness, pain, or sorrow. Like Mike, may we all continue the march in serving others and making this world a better place.